The rain fell in relentless sheets against the windows of the small apartment building, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and red. Inside apartment 4B, Mia struggled to navigate her new reality. She had been paralyzed from the waist down after a car accident 6 months ago, leaving her entirely dependent on others for tasks she once took for granted. Her life had become a rhythm of diapers, feeding schedules, and the constant worry for her 3-year-old triplets, Noah, Lily, and fragile little Alex. Each day was a challenge, and some days felt impossible. Mia's late husband had been a kind, steady presence in the family, but now she was alone. The triplets' laughter sometimes brought comfort, but more often it reminded her of how exhausting and overwhelming her days had become. Nights were the worst. The constant vigilance required to care for 3 toddlers left her body and mind exhausted. Even getting Alex, who had been particularly weak since birth, to stay calm during a fever felt like climbing a mountain she had no strength for. It was on one such dreary afternoon that the SEAL Admiral appeared in her life, a stern, authoritative man with a calm, measured voice. He had known Mia's husband through military operations. He had a reputation for precision and vigilance, and Mia immediately sensed a no-nonsense attitude underneath his quiet demeanor. "I've installed cameras in your apartment," he said one afternoon, his voice steady but not unkind. Mia blinked, her heart catching in her throat. "I installed cameras," she stammered, panic rising. "Why would—" "To ensure the children are safe," the Admiral interrupted gently. "I know you're doing everything you can, Mia, but I also know how easy it is for things to spiral when you're handling 3 toddlers and your recovery at the same time. You're a hero already, but sometimes even heroes need support." Mia wasn't sure whether to feel grateful or violated. She nodded slowly, unable to find her voice. The Admiral, noticing her hesitation, smiled faintly. "You're stronger than most, Mia. I just want to help in the ways I can." Meanwhile, in the same building, Jack, a single dad, and the janitor went about his daily routine. His life was simple: clean the apartments, maintain the building, and help anyone who needed it. He wasn't a man of words, but children seemed to gravitate to his calm presence. His own daughter had grown up, and he had learned the value of patience, of steady hands, and of showing up for those who couldn't manage on their own. That evening, the city lights flickered as a storm rolled in. Thunder rumbled, and the building's old wiring groaned under the sudden surge. The triplets began to cry almost simultaneously. Noah had pulled a toy across the floor and fallen. Lily was tangled in her blanket, and Alex's fragile cries pierced Mia's ears like knives. Mia attempted to move, but her body betrayed her. Panic rose. Her mind raced, calculating the fastest way to reach all 3 children, while her paralyzed legs refused to cooperate. Her hands trembled as she called out for help, her voice cracking. Then Jack appeared. Without knocking, without hesitation, he had unlocked the apartment door, his master key, a standard tool for emergencies. He moved swiftly, yet his movements were gentle, precise. "Hey, it's okay," he said calmly, reaching for Alex first. The infant's crying softened immediately under Jack's careful handling. He held the baby close to his chest, checking that he was unharmed. "All good. Daddy, or Uncle, Jack's got you." Mia watched, wide-eyed, as Jack moved from child to child, calming them, checking for bumps and bruises, changing Noah's soaked diaper, and helping Lily untangle herself from the blanket. Every action was deliberate, yet filled with warmth. Unbeknownst to Jack or Mia, the Admiral was watching the scene unfold on his laptop. The live feed showed every movement, every gentle touch. He leaned back in his chair, astonished. "Who is this man?" he muttered under his breath. Every gesture Jack made displayed a mix of competence, patience, and instinctive care that few adults, let alone single fathers, could manage. "Just doing what anyone should," Jack said softly to Mia, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. There was no arrogance in his voice, no expectation of reward, only calm reassurance. The storm raged outside, and Jack stayed in the apartment until the children were fed, changed, and tucked safely into their beds. Mia had tears in her eyes, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. She had thought she could manage on her own, but in that moment she realized how dangerously close she had come to being helpless in a storm that seemed to mirror the chaos in her life. Finally, Jack prepared to leave, returning to his own modest apartment across the hall. He had no idea that he had just passed a silent, critical evaluation from one of the most elite men in the Navy. The Admiral, sitting in the shadows of his office, allowed himself a small smile. "This man, he's extraordinary," the Admiral whispered. He had seen many heroes in his career, men and women decorated for valor, bravery, and skill. But what he witnessed on the screen wasn't about medals. It was about instinct, compassion, and the quiet courage to show up when no one else could. Mia, exhausted and emotionally drained, finally sank back into her wheelchair. She looked at the small note Jack had left by her side. "If you ever need help, I'm just next door. Jack." She smiled faintly through her tears. Even in her darkest hours, there was someone who cared, someone who would step up without hesitation or expectation. The storm continued outside, but inside the apartment there was a strange sense of calm. Mia felt a glimmer of hope she hadn't felt in months. Somewhere between despair and fear, a quiet hero had entered her life, a man whose actions spoke louder than words, whose heart was steady in the chaos. The SEAL Admiral, watching from afar, leaned back and allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Some heroes, he knew, never sought recognition. They didn't wear medals or shout their accomplishments from rooftops. They simply acted, and sometimes acting quietly, with courage and heart, was more heroic than anything else. As the night wore on and the storm began to subside, Mia sat by the window, gazing at the darkened city below. She thought about Jack, the janitor, the single dad, the quiet hero, and felt a profound sense of relief. For the first time since the accident, she felt that perhaps she and her triplets might not just survive, they might even thrive. Outside, the rain began to ease, the storm retreating into the distance. But inside apartment 4B, something stronger than the storm had taken hold. Hope, trust, and the unspoken promise that no matter what came next, Mia and her children would never be alone again. The morning sun filtered through the rain-speckled windows, casting a soft glow across Mia's apartment. The storm had passed, leaving a quiet calm, but the echoes of the previous night's chaos still lingered. The triplets, now dressed and fed, played happily in the living room, while Mia sat in her wheelchair, watching them with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. She could hardly believe how calm and safe they had been under Jack's care. A soft knock at the door startled her. "It's me," came Jack's familiar voice. He entered carrying a small bag of groceries, smiling warmly. "Morning. Thought I'd help with breakfast and clean up a bit while you settle in." Mia felt her chest tighten. "Jack, you don't have to," she said softly, but the gratitude in her voice betrayed her words. Jack shrugged. "I want to. Just a little extra help. No strings attached." He moved to the kitchen, gently engaging the twins, encouraging them to set the table, and talking to Alex in soothing tones. Every gesture was patient and instinctive, as if caring for children was as natural as breathing. Unbeknownst to Jack, the SEAL Admiral had not only been observing the previous night's events, but had also arranged to speak with him privately. Later that morning, he called Jack to the Admiral's office under the guise of routine maintenance checks around the building. Jack, curious but nonchalant, entered the office. The Admiral's presence was imposing, yet not intimidating. He gestured for Jack to sit. "I watched what you did last night," the Admiral began, his tone calm but authoritative. "Your instincts, Your care, your patience, it's extraordinary. You handled a high-pressure situation without hesitation, without expectation, and without error. That's why you're here." Jack raised an eyebrow. Thank you, sir, but I don't know what you mean. I just did what I thought needed doing." "That's exactly it," the Admiral said, leaning forward. "Most people freeze, most people panic, most people fail, but you acted like a true hero." Jack laughed nervously. "I'm just a janitor. I clean, fix things, and help people when I can. That's all." The Admiral shook his head slowly. "Some of the most heroic actions come from ordinary people who act without thinking of themselves. You've proven that last night. And now, I want you officially involved in helping Mia and her children." Jack's eyes widened. "Officially involved? How? What do you mean?" "I mean," the Admiral said, "that you would be a trusted guardian for this family. Not a nanny, not a paid caretaker, but someone who can be counted on, someone who can step in during emergencies, someone who can ensure their safety and well-being." Jack was silent for a long moment, torn between humility and the undeniable pull of responsibility. He hadn't sought recognition or glory. His life was quiet and simple. Yet, as he thought about Mia and the triplets, a resolve formed in his chest. I'll do it," he said finally. "I'll help them however I can." Back in the apartment, Mia was unaware of the conversation happening nearby. She watched Jack interact with the children, his calm demeanor and natural warmth, making her heart ache with gratitude. The way he laughed with the twins, soothed Alex when he fussed, and even managed the chaos of spilled cereal with a quiet smile. Everything about him radiated reliability and care. Days passed, and Jack's presence became a stabilizing force in Mia's life. He developed a routine with the children. Morning walks with Alex in his stroller, story time with Noah and Lily, meal prep and cleanup, and bedtime routines that left Mia feeling rested for the first time in months. The apartment, once a place of constant struggle, began to feel like a true home again. One evening, as the family sat together in the living room, the Admiral arrived for a surprise visit. Mia's eyes widened. You're here?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The Admiral nodded. "I wanted to see how things are going. I've heard remarkable things about you, Jack, and I wanted to witness it firsthand." Jack's face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm just doing my part, really. It's nothing special." But as the Admiral observed, he saw everything. The way Jack guided the triplets through a shared game, how he reassured Alex when he became fussy, how he helped Mia reach for her coffee cup without making her feel dependent. Every action was instinctive, yet deliberate. A perfect balance of authority and kindness. "Do you see now?" the Admiral asked Mia softly, leaning close. "This is what I meant when I said heroes don't always wear medals. Sometimes a hero is a man who shows up quietly, without recognition, and changes lives through sheer presence and heart." Mia's eyes welled with tears. She felt a deep, overwhelming sense of gratitude, not just for Jack's actions, but for the silent strength he brought into their lives. I don't know how to ever thank him," she whispered. Jack overheard her and smiled softly. "No thanks needed," he said quietly. "I care about you and the kids. That's all that matters." Weeks later, the building's residents noticed a change in apartment 4B. Laughter echoed through the halls, where previously only cries had rung out. Mia's confidence grew with every passing day, her independence strengthened by the steady support Jack provided. She began to regain some mobility through therapy, encouraged by the fact that she wasn't facing life's challenges alone anymore. One afternoon, the Admiral called Mia to a private conversation. "I wanted to show you something," he said, guiding her to the now empty security room. He pulled up footage from the cameras he had installed months earlier. Mia's eyes widened as she saw the moments she had lived through, Jack calming the triplets, handling crises, and moving with precision and care that seemed almost effortless. "I wanted you to see," the Admiral said, his voice gentle, "that what you've been experiencing isn't luck. You've had a guardian angel in human form. Jack's bravery isn't about battlefields. It's about life, love, and showing up when it matters most. Mia swallowed hard, overwhelmed by emotion. He didn't know you were watching. No, the Admiral replied. He acted purely from instinct, and that is what makes him extraordinary. Mia hugged Jack later that day, feeling the full weight of gratitude and relief. The triplets played nearby, giggling and unaware of the quiet heroism that had reshaped their lives. Jack, normally reserved, smiled with a rare softness, his quiet pride shining through. From that day forward, Mia, the triplets and Jack formed a bond stronger than anything adversity could break. The SEAL Admiral's cameras had merely recorded the proof of what Mia already knew in her heart. Courage, love, and heroism often appear in the simplest, quietest acts. Jack remained the silent guardian, the janitor who had become a cornerstone of their lives. His heroism didn't need recognition, medals, or accolades. It was measured in safety, laughter, and the knowledge that Mia and her children would never face life's storms alone again. And as the sun set on the apartment building, painting the city in hues of gold and pink, the triplets laughed, Mia smiled, and Jack quietly continued his work, proving that true heroism often comes in ordinary packages, but with extraordinary hearts.